Okay, Lasso.
All right, here we go. This is the part where you really need to stress, don't sweat the small stuff. And thank you for being committed. I think we all are committed to our careers, one way or the other. Just a note, after this, we will have closing remarks by Rahul Patel, and we're going to have a student presentation at the end of this. It's a capstone project on endpoint detection. So it is my pleasure to introduce, I'm going to butcher this, Dr. Federico Sciarmarella. Close enough.
Yep.
I'm Laszlo Gaunt. Okay. Federico serves as president at CTO of MxD. He is in charge of developing and implementing the technology vision for the Institute. He's looking forward to leading the outstanding team that is currently in place. I will want to add Federico was previously an associate professor at Northern Illinois University, where he directed the advanced research in materials and manufacturing for more than 10 years. Take it away.
All right, thank you very much. Really excited to be here, so thanks to Kasi and the whole team for inviting me to give this keynote. It's very exciting because from what I've seen today, there's been a lot of great information and the things that you're all doing. So I think my spin was going to be more about where we're at and really a call to action, because I think, as the panelists said earlier, it really is incumbent upon all of us to help move the needle with regards to securing America's supply chain, the manufacturers, and all those details. And so while we have a very great audience here today doing a lot of great things, I think we could do even more as we work collectively together. And so just to put this in perspective, and you may already know these numbers, as we've talked about here, and Bernardino mentioned the keynote, oftentimes we're trying to focus on those SMMs, right? So it's a large portion out there, as you can see from the chart, that really don't have any resources. And they're doing things, right? And some of them, as mentioned, don't do things, or they don't know that their PLCs can be hacked, and all the great stories we hear upon the visits. But ultimately, it's about how do we drive that change. As mentioned, it is a kind of a cultural thing and something that we need to think about. So want to talk about some of the things that we're doing here at MxD. Before I do that, what's the landscape like for Industry 4.0, right? So this digital transformation that we're also doing here, right? Because you can't really transform without thinking about cybersecurity, and that's another message that we've talked often about, right? As you're adopting these new technologies, knowing that you're increasing your attack vector, right? So what are you doing to that? And obviously, most of the big companies, although I know there are exceptions, where things do happen, it doesn't take very long to get to that small business that is supplying to that larger vendor. And so, there are issues there. But ultimately, I think what we're trying to do here is make people understand, as people were talking about earlier, this isn't just about security, it's just about good business as well, right? To have that inside your thoughts and the culture of the organization. Again, you guys probably know more stats than myself. This is what we like to share because it is real, right? The impact that these threats have on manufacturers, and I think oftentimes you don't hear a lot about it because it's just not something that people want to talk about, right? So we talk about this changing the mindset. We've heard the speakers talk about it earlier today, right? It's not a matter of if, but when, and how are you prepared for that, right? Training yourself, training your workforce. So again, I know all of this seems a bit repetitive, but when we look at the manufacturer, right, they're hearing all these things and they just, where do I start? What resources can I leverage? Sometimes you hear the story of the guy literally has, one of the workers' sons who's in high school studying computer science that's helping, with their IT. So what are the tool sets that we need to provide at every level? And we'll talk about that later. And really, how do I just validate these things and ensure that I'm doing something that's good for my business? So obviously, we'll show this when we go on our roadshows, and I'll talk more about that later. You have all the frameworks in place depending upon where you want to start, what you want to do. As Laura mentioned earlier, just pick something and go with it. There is really no wrong approach. right? The wrong approach is not to pick something and just kind of think that things aren't going to happen. So again, I think you all know this. I don't want to belabor this, but some basic things that people can do on the manufacturing front that we talk about to them and thinking about is very important. And then really kind of that bigger picture as it comes to the manufacturer and the things that they need to think about and the things we try to talk to them and demonstrate through our workshops and through our discussions that we have here at MxD, and we also go to visit. And I think importantly, collaborating across your supply chain too, right? Share these stories. I know sometimes it can be embarrassing, hey, something happened to us, but this is what we've learned, right? This is the things we need to avoid, and kind of taking away some of that shame, right? Because, it's gonna happen eventually to most of us, and so how do we share that with each other in a way that's gonna be effective, but also creating policies and things that are gonna help us and not, as we've heard in stories, just, oh, I'm going to check off a box and I'm good, right? Because we often say that. Just because you're compliant doesn't mean you're secure, right? And so we got to change that process as well. So as the National Center for Cybersecurity Manufacturing, really our focus is around these 4 areas. And this is what we find is really going to help us get to that next level. And we're just really a piece of this larger puzzle. So I'm going to talk about the awareness and training. I'm going to talk about some tools and services that we have. I'm going to talk about the workforce programs we have. And I'll talk a little bit about the standards of compliance, but again, you guys probably know more about that than me, and it's really just about us being a messenger to DoD on what are the things that we need to do, particularly with CMMC, right? How many of you know that we've put out a document, free resource on achieving CMMC level 1. Okay, so again, that's a resource that we're trying to make available, trying to spread out so that people understand that, what it costs. I mean, it costs us a lot of money, several hundred thousands of dollars, and I can't go ask an SMM or a member of mine, hey, go spend that to be compliant to DoD to make, maybe they're making a small part, right? So how do we make that more effective for them to be able to, part of this, still be compliant and still be safe, but not breaking their bank, right? So that's one aspect. But I'll talk about the 10,000 manufacturing awareness campaign that we're on today. We need you all to be part of that campaign with us. Again, as I said, we can't do this alone. We don't pretend to do this alone. So again, you guys are also, as mentioned, people talking to the insurance industry, which I think is a great idea. Let's talk to everyone, right? Let's keep this dialogue going. The marketplace, I'm going to talk about. This is a tool that we launched earlier this year that is a resource for manufacturers to go and kind of do some analysis, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then our workforce program and all the things that we're trying to do there to highlight the pathways for careers in cybersecurity and manufacturing. So I'm going to talk about that as well. So with regards to the awareness campaign, we kind of broken this down into a couple of components. One is the content that I'll show and talk about on our website that is very valuable, and again, only is good if we're able to share that out. So I urge you, as you see these things, please share them, and please comment or please provide feedback, as I'll talk about later. Then we have some direct engagements that we do. So we go on road shows. We are doing tabletop exercises. We're talking about or doing work with the MEPs. So again, if these are areas, as I talk about them, are of interest, please reach out to us, because these are great things to share. So here are some content pieces that we do, whether it's kind of general awareness on cyber, or we might have some relevant, such as our hiring guide that we launched a few years ago that I'll get into a little bit later, or then workshops or training that we have in particular for one course that I'll talk about later, which is the cybersecurity for manufacturing OT, which I think is very relevant to what the people were talking about in the last panel. With regards to our outreach, as I said, we have events like this where we try to talk to the audience to help generate that message. We Also have the roadshow, as I talked about, where we go to manufacturers and their suppliers, right, and say, here are some basic things you can do. You all went on the tour and saw the cyber wall, right? Yes? So, and I don't know if they talked about the little cyber box that we created. So that's what we take, what you see here on the road, to demonstrate these things so people can actually see what it means to have something compromised, right? Not just a PowerPoint or some statistic. It's literally showing them how that's done. And then really other things like tabletop exercises where we're bringing in red teams, blue teams, and just kind of going through those things with them so they can understand what that looks like in their environment. This just launched a few weeks ago, our MxD Cyber Resource Hub. Again, I would strongly encourage you to visit it, poke around, look, question it, maybe add some content. This is a resource that we're making available so manufacturers, when they're looking, know where to go to get information. Remember, we're a public-private partnership. We are a nonprofit, so we don't have any, like, here's the best things to do, but it's more kind of that just unedited, here's the reality of where things are, here are the things that we're seeing. Here's some just basic language, right, of manufacturers can understand. So you guys have all the technical details, and that's great. Help us also speak to that second level of why these things are important and why people need to be engaged. With regards to the roadshow, as I said, if you're already involved with certain organizations or think that people might be interested, we have funding up until next year, I think April or so, to do more roadshows. And so work with Laura's team to get on that calendar. But these are the things that we highlight, right? Fundamentals, and as it pertains to NIST cybersecurity framework, identify, protect, respond, recover, detect, all those things. We give them kind of some basics on, what they can do, right? All the things that we've talked about, right? Don't share the passwords on Post-it notes. Don't use a default passwords. All these things, and providing them the resources and access to the things that we all know are relevant that manufacturers don't know. And then if you're interested, even maybe participating as a cyber expert to be part of that Q&A, we're really excited at that opportunity as well. So again, something to think about and reach out. Okay, with regards to the marketplace, as you can see here, the idea was we wanted to create a one-stop place for manufacturers to come and do an assessment, and it can be against CMMC or NIST, whichever is of interest. But the really exciting thing here is that it's really easy questions. So they're yes or no questions that kind of drive through the framework. And then at the end of that, as you'll see here, it kind of gives them a score of what's met, what's unmet. And to the right of that, then they can look at what are the potential solutions of providers that we've vetted that can help them fill those gaps, right? So they don't have to use them. Maybe they have access to other people, but this just helps them put together, okay, I understand where my gaps are and what I need to do. I can prioritize. I can look if I, select this one gap, and I think there's an example here about multi-factor authentication. What is that going to do for me? I can prioritize based on my budget. So again, we really are excited about this tool. So again, if this is something that you can share within your networks, or if you're interested in getting a demo, we're happy to give you a demo. Or if you have a solution that maybe is viable for the marketplace, please come talk to us, because again, this is really about helping manufacturers. And if we can't get the right tools, if we can't get the right audience, then we're really not doing the things we're supposed to do. And we're trying, right? We're doing a lot. We've had a lot of touches and views on our website and on the marketplace, and people are curious, but it takes time, right, for people to understand, why do I need to do this? And that goes back to the kind of the awareness part. This is critical. So it's not just about cybersecurity, for cybersecurity's sake, but manufacturers are targeted, and we know this, right? They became number one, from a few years back, where I think it was like number 9 or number 10. This is a real threat to our economy, and those state actors know that. So anything they can do to disrupt our manufacturing process or supply chain, they're going to try to do because they know that's an advantage to them. With regards to our workforce, this is, being a former academic, certainly a really exciting piece for me. Just kind of high level, we talk about define, develop, and do in this space. So in the define space, what we've done, we've actually created two guides. So one is the taxonomy on digital roles of the future. That was actually published in 2017, 2018. We're getting some updates to that. But in 2020, we came out with the hiring guide, and this is specific roles in manufacturing around cybersecurity. And we defined 247 roles. That was with the help with partners and working with NIST, NICE, and all the government organizations in cybersecurity around that. And what was nice about that is that it talks about, and I'll show some examples, pathways and personas, so people can understand and feel and touch what it means to be, a cybersecurity manufacturing for OT, and what is the pathway, what are the skill sets you need for that. That goes into the develop part. And oh, by the way, the links there you can see, or you can go on our website. Those guides are free to download. Okay, so again, as a resource for you, I know many companies have actually literally copied and pasted and used it to hire people. And we call them roles and not jobs because it'll depend on the size of your organization, right? And what freedom you have. So maybe you could roll up several roles into a job description, or maybe one, depending again what you can do and what the skill sets you have available in your organization. So from define, we go into develop. So again, this is about our ecosystem. So we work with our academic partners and other individuals to develop curriculum around those skill sets and pathways so that now individuals can get trained in those areas. And so these are just two examples with University of Maryland, Baltimore County, developing the curriculum around cybersecurity for manufacturing operational technology. We've ran several cohorts of that, and it's been very successful. We've now even developed one where it's kind of available to, say, people coming from community college or university that may not have a lot of cyber experience, because again, we got to bring a lot of people to the table to help fill the gaps we have. And then Drexel also has done some stuff in digital, so design and manufacturing, so very exciting. We have over 1,000 courses, and I'll talk more about that on our virtual training center. This is the do part of it. So now we've defined and developed it. How do we actually get people active taking these courses? So we have our virtual training center. I'll show that in a minute, where you can actually go. It's open edX. You can take the courses. So if you're interested, please let me know. But what I would say, if there's content that you already have and you want to make it available on our virtual training center, please let us know, because we're now adding on a lot of universities and other organizations that have content, again, to pool those resources together so people can go to one spot, and that training center will evolve. We're doing workshops, as I mentioned, quite often here or with our members. And then we're doing this train the trainers. So with the MEPs, the manufacturing extension partners around, there's one in each state, some have two. This is funded by NIST, where they help manufacturers. We're training them with the Cyberbox on how to deliver that message, what are the tools, the resources they need, so then they can go out, right? As I talk about this in terms of scalability, how do we help people help others? So again, not everyone can come to Chicago, not everyone can participate in our workshops. Help expand that. This is what we want to do. Is again, if that's an area of interest, please reach out to us and let us know. So here are just some outputs from the hiring guide. I'm not going to go through these, but this just gives you a perspective at the rich content that you can get out of it, and to see, right, what's in there, what are the roles, what are the skill sets, what are the personas, right, that you see there of the things that they do. So it contextualizes it in a way that's easy for someone to understand who may not be a cyber expert. And there's certainly more roles that we need to kind of flesh out and do more. So again, if this is an area of interest, please reach out to us and let us know, because we're only going to be as strong as our ecosystem, right? We certainly can't do it alone, and we haven't done it alone. I talked about the virtual training center. Again, this is launched, sort of. I think we'll have an official launch here in the next month or so. But we have a lot of content on there to be taken. Some is free, paid. Again, just dependent upon what are the agreements we have. But really, the idea here is I'm asking you, again, as I said, is there content that you have or that you're aware of that we might want to have on this site? So again, if someone logs in, the idea is that they can start following their progression and seeing what pathways and what opportunities might be available to them if they take these skills or have these credentials, and it's an opportunity to grow or reskill or retrain. And so there's a lot of opportunity here, I think, again, to bring forth that workforce of the future that we need to help solve these problems that you are all tackling. And often we hear, right, we don't have enough of the people, and well, where do I start? What is it? And we have some of these resources to help put that into a good concept. Very quickly, because I know I'm getting over time and we got happy hour, we got a great student presentation, but I just want to talk a little bit also about our cybersecurity projects that we are funding, okay? And Laura could speak to this a lot better than I, but we've had this strategy in this past year and as we move forward on how do we focus on the OT side of things. As we said, there's a lot on the IT side, there's a lot going on. And so again, you can read through the different projects. So these are projects that we are either funding or will fund, and I'll show a couple of examples of that. But the idea is to create this ecosystem, right, of OT resources so that manufacturers can come and understand and kick the tires and see what is needed for themselves. And for people like yourselves with expertise to come and poke and prod and say, no, that doesn't work, or hey, have you tried this? Like really, that's what it's all about, okay? So these are some projects that are, as I said, coming, or some that we're already funding around these different areas. So I'll give you an example, one that just closed. This is with regards to resilience and recovery and strategies to address that. So looking forward to reading through those proposals, but ultimately this is going to be a playbook. What do I do? What are the steps? How do I achieve that, right? So, you know, I wish I would have had this to you months ago so you would have been part of the winning team, right? I don't know who that will be, but I'm sure you all have ideas on that. So what I would encourage you to do is engage in those. We have monthly tech calls for our members. Engage in those as we present on this and ask questions and make sure that whatever it is we're doing is going to be valuable or amplifying that message or helping us change that message. So this is a critical part. But I will highlight one that is still out there, and proposals won't be due till January 12th. So if you are interested in participating, again, you can reach out to the projects team. This is around the standards and guidelines for protection OT. So it goes back to that graph that I was showing. And I don't think, no, we haven't had the team formation opportunity. That's November 3rd. So you can sign up for that and really either listen in if you just want to hear who's talking about what and what they're going to propose, or you can come up and say, hey, here's my idea. This is what I could contribute to the project in the team, because these teams self-assemble, right? So we enable this kind of team formation opportunity, then people will go off and communicate and try to assemble a team to address this project call. As you can see down here on the bottom, there's about $500,000, right? If I could see that right on, my glasses on, fighting this, you know, just turned 50, right? And I don't need to wear glasses, but I do. Anyways, $500,000, up to $500,000 of funding for this. So again, a great opportunity for you to get involved, provide your ideas, and really work with our ecosystem. A lot of manufacturers that want to know and be part of these things. We're trying to build that culture up, and it can only, again, happen with all of you. So that's kind of what I'm saying here. I really appreciate your time. There are ways to partner with us, and these are just a few of the ideas, but if there are others that you have, please, again, reach out to us and let us know, because we're really here to help the manufacturers, right? This is what our mission is, to secure that transformation so that U.S. manufacturing can stay on top, do the things it needs to do, create the wealth that we've created for past generations so that we have the opportunity to grow And for everyone, right? For everyone. Anyone that wants to be involved in this space, cybersecurity, digital manufacturing, it has to be for everyone. And that's what we want to do. So again, I want to thank you for your time. This is my contact information. I'll be around for the reception or to chat, and Laura's here and some of our team. So again, thank you so much for the time to speak to all you today. Hopefully this was of use. And I will turn it over, I guess, now that our MC is gone, to Rahul. All right, thank you.
All right, what a day, and we are still going, right? So the student presentation is supposed to be after the closing remark on this, but we are going to switch it around. They are going to present first, and then I'll, if we have time, I'll spend like 5 minutes. So Ray is going to talk about the IIT program.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here. I'm Ray Trigstad. I'm the Associate Chair of the Department of Information Technology and Management at Illinois Tech. Earlier, you heard Calvin Nobles, my boss. One of the odd things about academia is you actually get to help pick your boss, which was a pretty neat process to have been through, and we're very glad to have Calvin with us. One of the distinguishing characteristics of undergraduate education at Illinois Institute of Technology, and one of the things that sets us apart from a lot of other institutions, is the fact that every undergraduate student is required to participate in 2 semesters of a course called the Interprofessional Project. And we call them iPros for short. In our iPro classes, we have students work on real-world projects, very often brought to us by industry. And by the way, if you have any real-world projects that maybe you don't have the bandwidth to do, but could be tackled by a bunch of talented undergraduate students, we'd love to have you come do that. So this particular team has been working with Rahul, actually, who is one of our adjunct faculty members, and we're glad to have him on our faculty. And the project they've been working on is an endpoint security project development. And I'm going to find out from these guys which ones of these they are. Who are you guys?
I'm Cole Deck. No, I'm not.
Oh, you're not on my list. Okay. What are you majoring in, Cole?
I'm a computer engineering student. I'm
Okay.
a third year.
Okay, Cole Deck, a third year computer engineering, and your colleague here?
My name is Michael Sherwood, and I'm majoring in mechanical engineering.
Okay. Other people in their group that are not here, a couple of CS majors, Elizabeth Aquino, Daniel Yabe, and one of my students, one of my advisees, Denora Saldivar, as part of this team, all working together on this project on endpoint security. So we're very pleased to have them here, to have them present what they have done in this semester. It's remarkable what many students achieve in the context of an interprofessional projects class, and I'm very pleased to have had the opportunity to have been a part of some of these in the past, and we are very proud as an institution for the fact that we have this opportunity available to our students. So I'm going to let them take it from here.
Thank you. Who's starting it off? Giving an instruction?
Full screen. Full screen on that.
You guys are good, right? Yes.
Good.
So, hello everyone. My name is Michael Sherwood. I'm an engineering student here at Illinois Institute of Technology, and we are presenting on behalf of Illinois Tech as iPro 497-308 for cybersecurity, endpoint security. So iPro stands for Interprofessional Development Project, which is a course at Illinois Tech that joins students from various majors to work together and solve real-world problems. iPro projects are intended for students to gain knowledge that go beyond just the classroom. So, like I said, I am Michael Sherwood, mechanical engineering.
I'm Cole Deck, computer engineering.
I'm Mohammed Khan, ITM.
I'm Michael Martinez. I'm cybersecurity.
And I'm Charles Senegi. I'm in computer science.
And here's the rest of our team really quickly. We have the front end team, our back end team, our project management team, which I am a part of, and finally our requirements and testing team. Okay, let's go into the project. So the goal of IP Pigeon is to be able to control exactly what connections are allowed to connect, as well as flag any connections that are maybe malicious.
So the requirements analysis and testing team, we were responsible for creating the general framework of how this project is going to be built. So we came up with requirements for both the front end and the back end team. So for the front end, we came up with the requirement that the program has to be cross-platform, meaning it has to be accessible on Windows, on Linux, Mac OS. Also, that it should run as a background process. Like other EDRs or other antivirus, we also wanted to not take up too much CPU, too much memory. Just kind of running in the background, kind of capturing traffic. Another requirement for the front end, we wanted pop-up notifications for detections. So let's say the program did catch a malicious connection, it would display a pop-up alerting the user that, hey, look, we detected a malicious connection and we're going to kill it right now. For the back end, okay, so we also had a user-friendly dashboard. For the back end, they were responsible for generating and saving reports, stats from data gathered. So obviously you had the program that's gathering data, the internet traffic. The back end server was responsible for gathering all that data and formulating reports based off that. And also we had a GitHub repository with a list of all the malicious IP addresses, and we're cross-reference against that and block or allow based on that list.
So like I touched on earlier, I was a part of the project management team for this specific project. So our assignments were we were responsible for assigning deadlines, ensuring that they were met, establishing weekly communication between teams, aka calling meetings and seeing where each other are at and what still needs to be done. And we also assigned roles and managed the presentation scheduling, so kind of put this together as a group. And let's go to the front end next.
So I'm part of the front end team. I'm basically the lead programmer. And so our task, as was mentioned, was to create a kind of client app that would be distributed to end machines that has a little UI, a control panel. And this control panel is password protected. And it's authenticated with the back end side. So only an administrator who is authorized to control the firewall can log in and change any settings. And some of the other things it has to do, block connections with the host firewall. And of course, it can also kill processes directly. It's not just networking based. And we have the ability to change settings and view statistics in the UI. And it's also able to partially function offline without a connection to the backend server. It can continue using the existing blocking data that it has previously acquired. And it does all this with a native UI for whatever OS it's running on. And as mentioned, it runs in the background. And is able to perform without significantly impacting performance of the system. You won't notice it's there unless you're really looking for it.
So I'm part of the backend team, and the backend team my job was making sure that the front-end application has all the necessary infrastructure to take care of all of those data requirements. So to do that, we use the AWS RDS database system, which stores the encrypted data and also all of the logged IPs and managing which data could be, which IPs could be malicious. And so to manage the database and to handle all of that, we built scripts and use that on the AWS EC2 server, where they're called from the front end. So in the EC2 server, we receive data from the front end, whether it could be a user logging in, or if an application is running and an IP address is logged, the EC2 server takes care of all of that. It's also where we perform the data analysis, querying the database, and so on. Yeah.
So I was a part of the requirements analysis and testing team along with Mohammed. And we wanted to talk about what are some upcoming developments we have for the application. So what we're going to be working on next in the next half of the semester. So we'll be enhancing the user interface with settings. So we're going to add in a settings feature, which will allow the administrator to basically modify the application to benefit the needs of their organization. So this could allow features for something simple as like changing the time interval in which the application is updated with new data, or it could also allow them to modify the table that displays statistics on the user interface. We also want to develop cosmetics for the project. So this is something that we're going to be doing more, because as of now, the main priority of our project has been making sure everything's functional. But as soon as we finish and strengthen everything up on the functional side, we're going to just stylize the application a lot more. We also want to increase UI responsiveness. So this is just simple touch-ups, such as making the application adjustable and fit every single window size. We also want to make sure that we have cursor hover features, so that if the user puts a cursor on any type of widget, there's a detailed explanation of what that widget does. We also want to include pop-up notifications. We also want to communicate additional relevant statistics to users. So this could come in the form as pop-up notifications, such as when the application detects a potential malicious connection, it'll offer a pop-up notification to the user so that they can click on it, and that's just more interactiveness. And we also would like to send up other relevant statistics, such as anything that the user might be interested in, such as the total amount of malicious hits on the current day, or the total number of requests made on the current day. And just finally, we just want overall additional functionality. We want to make sure that we have secure login functionality, so that the authorized personnel are the only people who are gaining access. We want to make sure that there is reliable and robust communication between the front end and the back end, just to make sure that all the data is accurate and up to date. We also want to make sure that there is a simple and easy installation process. And yeah, we just also have to make sure that the UI is easily navigable, and that the system just reliably runs smoothly and doesn't crash.
So now we're going to take a look at a quick demo. So first we'll take a look at the front end side of the code. So this is a little pre-recorded video, but we launched the software here. Of course, it'd be running on boot automatically on your deployed machines, but it has a little taskbar icon where we can launch the control panel. From here, we have to log in, and this authenticates with the back end. So we'll put in a quick demo user here. And if it doesn't authenticate, you won't be able to get to the control panel. We still need to beef up the security a little bit, but at the moment, this is pretty good. As we can see, here's the software. It's not running at the moment. Of course, it would start on boot and might automatically be running. That's a configuration option. Little basic settings panel, and we can see at the bottom there's a security strength level, which is what we're going to look at here. So we can change between 0, which is back-end analysis only, where it sends data to the back-end to analyze it, but it won't actually do any blocking on each machine. Then we can go up to level 1, which is where it'll kill the offending process, but it won't block the network connection itself. So it'll temporarily disable that connection effectively. Step it up, we can block the connection using the host system firewall, whether that's the Windows system firewall or net filter on Linux. And we can go up to level 3 where it'll kill and block connections. So it'll kill whatever offending process and block whatever connection permanently. So we'll start with just killing the process and start the program real quick. You can see that the statistics here of the active connections, currently nothing malicious running, just kind of simple statistics there. If we open up a browser though, we can go to a malicious site, in this case, one of our school's robotics clubs. And so we take a look at the gallery here, you know, oh, it's gone, the process has been killed. So, but, you know, that's level 1 blocking, so nothing is really stopping us from doing it again. You can see it highlighted the little entry there in red on the top. So if we were to try it again, though, it'll still take us to the page temporarily before blocking it again because it doesn't actually block the connection. But that's not that good, so let's bump it up. We go to settings here and increase that to the number 2 setting, block offending connections using firewall. It'll immediately block it with the firewall. We don't have to do anything. You can see if we go to the site, unable to connect. So it's already blocked. Can't even try. We can see if we check the Windows host firewall, we can see there's a new rule in here that's been managed automatically. It blocks the exact port and protocol and the destination IP of that exact connection, so it won't falsely block other connections on the system. And all the blocking data is coming from the backend server. This is not running. This is sending data up. Says, hey, Illinois Tech Robotics, that's a bad site. Block that. Change it up to level 3 here, and we have to restart the software because it takes a little more processing power. Start it up. Now we can try to go to the site, and when I restarted, it also cleared that firewall rule, so we can visit it. We can see, okay, the site works temporarily. We try to go to the gallery or something, and it's blocked, and now it's killed, and so now it's also blocked from the firewall. If we try it again, it won't even load at all. So there's a couple options on how you want to do the blocking. And as we saw that settings panel that was visible, those are some basic options, and of course we're going to be expanding that later with some more options, such as how to format the visible processes and stuff like that. But that's the front end.
So here I have just a little bit of the back-end demo. I have a few different things. I'm showcasing a couple different scripts. So what you see right here is actually a file that's stored on the EC2 server that receives incoming data, and it receives it in the format where you have a username, you have their password, and you have the type of user, whether that's just a regular user or an admin. And then if we run the add user script, we can see that it's created. If we try to run it again with the same data in there, it will fail because that user already exists in the system. Pretty simple. And then here we're showcasing the data analysis tool. So I'm running the data analysis script, and it chucks a file that stores all of the bad IPs, all of the malicious IPs that have been recorded. And it does this by querying the database. Right now it's stored with a bunch of test data, but obviously on deployment it would be storing malicious IPs. Next we have the database input, which actually receives data in that incoming file and puts it into the database. That's pretty simple. It's connected, and as things come in, it will actually show which entries are put in. So here I do a database query, and you can see it has all the IP data. And here's where we would flag it as malicious or not. Finally, this is similar. This is about the user login again. It's a login service which is performed from the front end. So the front end calls this, and you can see connections get established if, and at the end there, if a connection isn't, if the login credentials are not correct, it will obviously not make the connection. So that's a little bit of the showcase of what the backend has been working on.
I just want to add real quick that all communication between the front end and back end is fully encrypted end to end and very secure. So, and with tried and true encryption methods, we're not inventing anything new here. That's really untested, just to make sure that nothing gets out beyond where it's supposed to be. That's about it. Thank you.
Questions?
Do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, to the back end scientists, was just curious. I noticed that you were using Python to write your scripts. Wondered, is there some connectivity to SQL standard, and if so, which standard were you using for the queries?
For the queries? Yeah, right now we're using SSL.
You were using
We're using
TLS.
SSL encryption.
TLS, I hope.
Yeah,
Good thing.
yeah, no problem.
Please get the nomenclature.
So, quick question. Is this open source or?
Everybody's
Currently known.
Currently, no, but it's an option we're considering. And like at the moment, it would be safe to release the source. There's nothing in it that would reveal any secrets that would make it insecure. But at the moment, as we're still developing it, we're keeping it behind closed doors at the moment.
So another question on open source. How much open source did you use to build this?
Open source is the majority of what we're basing it on. I mean, we're using AWS, which has some open source and some closed source components, of course, for the back end. For the front end, we're relying almost entirely on open source software apart from various system libraries, in Windows itself. We'll use the Windows firewall. We'll use Windows PowerShell for running internal code and adding to the firewall and stuff like that. But the UI and the internal scripting is based on open source libraries that are audited and secure, not just nothing that's like deprecated or anything. But yeah, the front end at least is majority open source based.
So are you enumerating the open source packages you're using, building a software bill of materials out of it so you can see the vulnerabilities you bring into it?
At the moment, that's all manual, but before we used any libraries, we do check to see, are they active, are they being patched with security fixes, and as we're developing, we're keeping the installed versions up to date for any security fixes, but we're not directly checking for that at the moment, apart from manually looking at it.
But you are looking at the active maintenance of it.
Yes.
Super cool. Thank you.
Guys, first and foremost, awesome work. That's really cool. Have you been able to port this to Mac and Linux for IP tables, or is it still only restricted to Windows?
It is mostly functional in Linux. Currently, Linux only has the process killing and not the firewall additions, but I did look into it, and it's a very simple feature to add to the front end. Our code base is majority shared between Windows and Linux, so it's just add a function here to do firewall blocking on Linux. It's very easy to do that. I just did not quite get that in time for today, but it'll be definitely something we'll be doing by the end of the semester. Mac OS, at the very least, looks pretty simple to get the basic analysis going. We haven't really done too much with Mac OS at the moment, but our code base for the UI and all that directly works on all OSs without any changes, so it's very easy to add features for every platform. But yeah, Windows is the only fully functional system at the moment.
Very cool. Job well done, guys.
Thank you.
So, is this only a one ITRO project, or are you going to continue on with it, and your professors going to continue on with the project? What is the future plan?
Well, historically, the way it goes is, so we started this semester, back in August, and this semester ends, wraps up late November and December, and then most likely next semester they'll start a new project. But if you have some comments on that, okay. And so it'll be a new project that's somewhat similar in scope for next time, and ours is a good example for theirs. Other iPro courses at our school do have a continuous project. For example, I took one that was about robotics, where they're helping out high school students build robots, and where they'd work with the same teams over and over to help them strengthen their robots over the course of multiple years.
So this is actually 9 weeks of work. The first week, we just introduce ourselves and they actually pick which problem that they want to solve. So actually, it's only 8 weeks worth of work. We still have 7 more weeks. And every semester, I get completely different students. I think there is only 2 students who are overlapping from previous class, right? So they start from scratch. I practically don't teach them anything new. Whatever they learn in first 3 years, this is just applying and building commercial products, right? And the next group comes in well prepared, and they start new challenge. But the idea is there is a series of 4 such courses that I'm planning to offer so far. This is the second one, and later on in my closing comments, I'll let you know a little bit more. Ray want to say something, I think.
One of the things that we always try to do at Illinois Tech is we encourage our students who are working on coding projects to release them under some kind of open source license. So we have a long history of that, and we have one of our interesting areas in our department is we have a long history of steganography, applied steganography projects, where the students have actually built tools to detect steganographically hidden material. And they're always open source. And whenever we run that class, we always have the FBI hovering around to scoop up those tools at the end of each semester. So we have a pretty strong tradition of this in trying to encourage students to make the products of their labor, available to people so that they can share what they've done. And we like them to be seen. And it's a good opportunity for them to have the ability to say, hey, look what I've done. You can go out and look at it. You can download it. You can play with it. And when they go to look for a job, that's a pretty nice thing to have in a portfolio. I was very excited about introducing our students. I forgot to do my own selfish piece. My own selfish piece was, if we're all done here, if anybody's going anywhere near Union Station, it's raining, and I sure could use a ride. Thank you.
Any more questions for the students?
Just a comment. My question about open source, you're doing stuff that a lot of people in the industry are not doing, so kudos. Like in terms of understanding what vulnerabilities you're bringing in. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so we started around 8:30 in the morning. And we heard a lot of experts from different area. I have a list of, everybody has a list of many people who shared their thoughts. I'm not going to go through their names. If I forget someone's name, then it's embarrassing, right? But I will summarize that, we started with a really big impact issue, proven issue in manufacturing, the electrical, right? Dr. Shinoy gave us a real-world example that he has proved that there are things vulnerable that are critical infrastructure. Nations depend on them, right? Then we went on to from the vendor. We saw like how we can protect those infrastructure, what are the options available. We went through like quite a few panels, and the panels were very well designed. There is a vendor representation, there is an industry representation, right? And academic or research representation, right? And how the different challenges that we all face, whether it is budgeting challenge, technical limitation challenges, new issues that we are finding from the research perspective, right? From many different angles, that what are our limitations, what can we do together, right? We discussed a lot from the risk perspective, from operational technology perspective, technological challenge, how can we train and educate our workforce, create a culture, security of our culture, right? So a lot of different angles that we have explored today. And we ran out of coffee, I think 2-3 times, right? So, so that shows that how challenging it is. And we haven't even explored the operational technology, things that we can connect to the internet. We have seen some of the discussions where people were somewhere right here, right? They were rejecting the idea that we don't want to connect to the internet, we want the physical separation. There were some who were exploring logical separation, right? From the risk mitigation, whatever we have on the internet now or on the network now, we are trying to find the best way to control the risk, right? The soon to be, we are still analyzing that how can we reduce the risk so we can introduce it to safely, right? And there are more, the bubbles are getting bigger and bigger, right? I have only 3 slides. So there's a second one, so I'm going to close it really quick. But the idea here is when we started, we had a endpoint, centralized, distributed, and a network, right? That's how the traditional computing worked. Risk was evenly distributed when we started maybe 30 years ago, 20 years ago. Now the things are getting concentrated at both ends. And the network is pretty much standard. It is transporting the data. We have a data encryption, channel encryption. We have a methodology to secure it. But at the both end, that's where we are finding the new use cases, and that's where we are focusing that how we can still control the risk. We are trying to apply the traditional methodology, right? Our general purpose computing controls into this specialized machines, and that's not really working well, especially in the middle section. If we know that something is good, we need it, we are allowing it. We know something is bad, we don't want it, we are blocking it. But what about those in the middle, right? And that's where the control slides, whether we want to allow things or not. And one of the project requirement was that rather than having a deny list, we have an allow list, right? And these are exactly known connections that we want to allow. And there are 3 different places where we can put these controls, right? At rest, in transit, or in use. In use was the first IPRO, in transit is the second IPRO, and then at rest will be the third IPRO. But thank you for all the speakers. You shared a great deal of perspective from breadth and depth perspective. Audience, you asked the great questions. Thank you for that. And last but not least, MxD and Kasi, thank you for putting this together. And I think I don't want to take more of your time. Thank you.
All right. That's it.
Yes, let's hit the bar.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all, thank you for coming. Now the bar is open.